Welcome back. So in this video, we are going to be exporting our website over to a deployed server. So we're going to be moving it from, for example, a local server where it's being worked on and just in the testing stages, and we're going to move it over to an actual web server. So we go over web hosting and everything in the bonus lecture section and, talk about how to set it up, because again, there are many different web hosting panels and portals that you can use. So there's many different of them, and that's why I didn't want to cover one specific one. You can go and choose that on your own. It's all the basic same principles, and it's really not that hard to pick up within a few videos. But what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to teach you how to move your website from localhost, and actually I'm going to be moving it from our online to our local server because I did the other way around this time. But again, it's the same principle, just flip it. It's the opposite way around. So we'll talk about that in just a second, but let's talk about what it actually takes to export a website back in the day. So back when it was WordPress 2.x, 3.x, the much older, earlier versions of WordPress, when PHP was still a very prevalent language and, it was like the big thing. And this is a long time ago, but what happened is you had your MySQL database, and then you had your actual WordPress server. So you had your WordPress files. And the thing is, your MySQL database is connected to your WordPress server. And if you don't have a database initialized, you can't use the website. It won't work. And that's actually one common problem is I see a lot of early WordPress developers. They just, move their files through some sort of FTP client, just take them and move them over to their server, but then it won't work. So back then it was very complicated and it was really a headache to deal with. You had to, make a new database, export tables, import tables, and you had to do all of these things, and it was just really complicated. But now with all of the WordPress plugins that we have, it becomes much easier. So what I'm going to do is head over to the dashboard of both of our websites, and you're going to need this plugin installed on both servers, and it's called All-in-One WP Migration. So what this actually does is it takes everything that we need, our database, our files, our server-side programming, and it's just going to bundle it all up in one package. And it's, it's a weird file format, but what happens is this plugin can export and import it. So once you import it, it will read it and then it will move everything back out. So it'll put the database in place, it'll relay everything, and it just makes the whole process a lot easier. And I'm sure that most people or most developers who want to migrate their site use this now, especially because the margin of risk is reduced, first of all, because, there can always be human error with your database, moving it over. And on top of that, it's just a lot more efficient and a lot quicker. So instead of spending, a good 20 minutes moving everything over, you can now do it in maybe under a minute. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is head over to the website that is currently under development. So for you, this will most likely be localhost, since that's what you're going to be using. But what you're going to do is go ahead and install that plugin. Then you're going to go over here and click export. So what this is going to do is bring us to this page. And now this is where we're going to export our site. So you can, leave some feedback, and there's a few other things, but what we're looking for here is this export to button. So you're going to click in, and now we have a few things. Now what we're going to do is just click file, but if you're working on a team or something, if you're using Dropbox or Google Drive, go ahead and do that. It's completely up to you on what you're using. But the most common method, and the one that I'm going to use, especially because most of you may be working individually, is through file. So when you click this, it's going to do this quickly. It's just going to package everything up. And what it's going to do is give us the availability to actually download this. And there we go. You can see we can download it. So all you're going to do is click there, and it's going to download this file right here. So you can see it's .wpress. So don't worry about that. Again, this is just an actual file format created by this plugin to work with this. So it's kind of like made for this plugin. But other than that, what you're going to do is download it, and this basically has our whole website on it. So again, this is going to be localhost for you. Now, what you want to do is when you want to deploy it, you're going to head over to the server you want to deploy it on. So right now I'm on my localhost server. Again, this should be your web server. It's usually the other way around. But again, this is just a blank site I just created very quickly, 5 minutes. It's just a vanilla WordPress, nothing done to it. Okay, so what we're going to do is head over to our dashboard, and under this plugin, we're going to go to import instead. And now we can actually import our page. And similar to the export, we can import it from anywhere, Dropbox, Google Drive, even AWS, all of these different things. So, but what we're going to do is just drag and drop to upload with the file. And that's why I like to use that method. All you have to do, go ahead and drag it on. And now it's going to import. So again, you want to, do all this, it will overwrite everything. That's pretty obvious. So just make sure that, there's nothing on the website. Usually there shouldn't be, but just to be safe, if you're doing maybe version control, you want to use something like Git, which is a version control software. There's many tutorials all over, and there will be bonus lectures coming about Git very soon, but that's not the point here. You just want to make sure that there's nothing on your website that you want to get rid of. Again, if you want to, do it sequentially over time, you can use something like Git. Or if you don't want to use that, which is pretty much the way that all the developers go by nowadays, you can just maybe use FTP or something to make copies of your website just in case, something goes wrong. So that's just one thing you need to make sure of. So let's go. We're going to click on proceed, and it's going to, prepare everything. And again, this doesn't really take too long. And there we go. You can see it has been imported successfully. So now you can see we have a few instructions to do. It says you must save your permalink structure twice. So this is quite easy. We all learned about permalinks and how they determine what your URL structure look like. So what we're going to do is go and just, log in. And remember, when you're logging into your website here, you're going to want to use your username and password from your export. Now, usually these are going to be the same, but just to show you, I named our export WP Masterclass, but I named this WP Bootcamp. So I want to just show you what will happen if you log in with your old details, and you can see it says invalid username. And remember, that's because these users are being stored on the database, but the database is gone now. It's taken from that export. So again, everything, just pretend like nothing's ever happened and you're just using the site on a different place. So I'm just going to input my password there. Now let's log in and see how that looks. And there we go. It brings us to our structure. And what you're going to do is just save this again, just to make sure. Now let's go and visit our site and see how that looks. And there we go. You can see that our website has been successfully exported. Now we have the same website on both. So you can see that that really brings a good opportunity, and it just makes everything a lot easier instead of having to do everything from scratch. And it's personally the way that I like to do it now. So again, you will be working on it from localhost. So you're going to want to export your localhost website. But again, if this is just kind of a bonus lecture, if you're just practicing around, making sure that everything's working with your WordPress skills, then you don't really need to do this. But if you're making it for a client, or if you want to put it on a portfolio or a web server, go ahead and do this. This is the kind of the most common method of transferring things. So just remember this lecture because it's going to be very important in your developer careers. All right, let's move on.